embargo on Israel as well, because it's a consistent violator of human rights.
I wanted to bring Huwaida Arraf back into the discussion, who's in Ramallah, chair of the Free Gaza movement, was part of the aid flotilla last year that the Mavi Marmara was a part of. The UN investigation did accuse Israel of excessive and unreasonable force. Now Turkey has announced the expulsion of the Israeli ambassador, the suspension of military cooperation hours before the report was published, but also in the last attempts of the Gaza Flotilla just in the last months, they themselves stopped a ship from going forward. Can you talk about all of this, Huwaida?
Sure. Really quickly, I'd like to just touch on a couple of important points that Norman made. The first one being about the legality of the blockade. And Norman did say that they considered it very separate from the rest of the closure, which has been declared completely illegal and a violation of Israel's obligations. So there's no way that this maritime blockade can be legal, no matter what way you look at it. It's a violation of Israel's obligations under international law as an occupying power. I also, in regards to Uribe and the problems that Norman mentioned, the other thing is that he is known to have a complete disdain for human rights defenders. And you can look at complaints from human rights organizations within Colombia, also an organization called Human Rights First, called this out, that him referring to human rights defenders as terrorist sympathizers endangers human rights defenders. So from the start, he had a disdain for people like us who like to call attention to and take action, nonviolent action against these human rights abuses. And the last really important thing before I get to your question is this report and the attention that it's supposed to get, when we already had an independent UN fact-finding mission that released a report almost 1 year ago, comprehensive, interviewed over 100 victims and participants. And that was put together by scholars in international law and known judges on international tribunals. This should be the authority on what actually happened, not this farce of a report. But in terms of what you said about Turkey stopping, but being part of stopping the last flotilla known as Freedom Flotilla 2, which was supposed to launch last summer, or this past summer, not exactly. It was Israel placed a lot of pressure on a lot of countries, the European countries, to stop their citizens from participating. Not many, some leaders of these countries made statements that the flotilla is not helpful and that they warn their citizens not to take part. But the country that really cooperated with Israel, and it was a shock and quite sad, was Greece. And we did learn that it came under a lot of political and economic pressure also because of the economic situation that they're in. But they did impose restrictions and did not let our boats leave. So it really became complicit in Israel's blockade, and we are challenging that on different levels. Turkey itself didn't really. It did communicate to us and to our Turkish partners that it might not be helpful at this time. But what happened? But the Turkish organization IHH remained fully a part of the flotilla. The Mavi Marmara was not able to go because it was not physically, mechanically ready to go. In fact, up until the date that we were supposed to launch, they still had people working to meet all of the guidelines for being certified to go into international waters on the kind of mission that we wanted it to. So at a point, we realized it wasn't going to be ready, and we took that boat out of the equation, but the Turks remained fully part of the organizing. And in fact, we were going to launch one boat from Turkey. One of the boats, it was the Irish ship, was located in Turkey, but it was sabotaged by, we believe, Israeli agents and was not able to launch. So they didn't really place any barriers, certainly not like Greece did.
But the fact that this report did find that Israel's use of force was excessive and unreasonable, and the significance of Turkey expelling the Israeli ambassador.
Definitely. Well, it's kind of funny that Turkey expelled the Israeli ambassador today after the release of this report, because the whole point of this report was to reach a political compromise and to repair the relations between Israel and Turkey. And we're glad that Turkey has taken the position that it has taken. And in fact, Turkey's foreign minister has said that it's time that Israel paid a price. And it's true, because Israel does not pay a price for any of its human rights violation. It continues to act with impunity. And even the fact that this report did say Israel acted using excessive force. It doesn't go enough to money, or paying compensation is no kind of justice for the families or for the people for the victims of Israel's actions. And that's what we want to see. We want to see some kind of accountability. And that's different from the UN report that was issued last September by the Independent Fact-Finding Mission, which recommended that human rights abusers be held accountable. And that's what we're waiting to see. So this report, the Uribe Palmer report, pays some lip service to the victims, but its main goal to repair relations, and we're glad to see that Turkey's not falling for that.
Norman, if we can, we just have a little bit of time. If you could just briefly talk about the implications of this report coming out now and the continuing schism between Turkey and Israel as we head into the United Nations vote on Palestinian statehood.
Well, actually, many Israelis worried that this would be a Pyrrhic victory for the Israeli government, because being so stubborn about refusing to make an apology. There are two consecutive words that just don't translate into Hebrew. The two consecutive words are "excuse me." They can't comprehend that. And many Israeli officials were saying, make the apology, because we need Turkey. Turkey has historically been our strongest ally in the Muslim world. Things are now turbulent with our other main ally in the Arab world, Egypt. Make the apology and move on. But there were members of the Netanyahu government, in particular Mr. Lieberman, the foreign minister, and his party, who refused because they said if they made the apology, Erdogan, the prime minister of Turkey, would run with it and would embarrass the Israelis, and Israelis would be humiliated. But they didn't think it was a wise move, and actually I don't think it is either. Losing the military relationship with Turkey, suspension of diplomatic relations, and now Turkey, when the statehood issue comes up in September, they are going to be in the forefront now, because Erdogan has been humiliated by this report. It was a complete spit in the face of the Turks, what this report said. So I think, from a moral point of view, it was a disgrace. But from a political point of view, it'll probably end up helping the Palestinians. You have to remember the whole point of the report. It described the killing of the 9 members on the passengers in the Mavi Marmara. You know what the phrase they used? It was a major irritant to diplomatic relations. Killing 9 people is an irritant. And they said we have to get over this irritant so that Israel and Turkey can restore diplomatic relations. That's their moral level.
We're going to leave it there. Norman Finkelstein, we thank you for being with us, author of, among other books, This Time We Went Too Far, Truth and Consequences of the Gaza Invasion, and Huwaida Arraf, chair of the Free Gaza Movement, co-founder of the International Solidarity Movement, was on one of the 6 ships that were in the Gaza Flotilla when the Mavi Marmara was attacked. She was joining us from Ramallah on the West Bank. This is Democracy Now!, Democracy